I think communication is fascinating because it's what really connects us around the world.
はい、今日はドリアン・ボンゴールデンさんをお迎えしています。Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Oha, minasan, genki. I am a Drian von Golden, and I'm from Australia, but I've lived overseas more than 30 years, so most of my life has been overseas. And I consider myself as a mixture of many things, but number one, I'm a challenger or a risk taker. That's my definition.
And I heard that you are an actor, singer-songwriter, comedian, and business skills coach. So how did you build your career?
That's a really great question. I'm getting a little older now, so I can't remember. I started out as an actor, and then from acting, I went into using those skills in the public arena. So basically public speaking and coaching people to be better communicators. I think my business skills side is more about how to get people to feel passionate about their message and really feel confident to give their message. So the acting really ties into role play and simulation and smile practice. But I'm also very, very happy to play music live, and I do comedy live and things like that.
So about the business skills coach, what exactly do you do as a business skills coach?
I think that each person has a unique way of looking at what's stopping them in business, in particular in communication. So I think I learned this way back when I first came to Japan. I worked for All Nippon Airways. I was doing intensive training for mixtures of ground staff, flight attendants, captains, mechanics, all together. But the synergy that's created by each person's ability is what's more important than their actual skill set. For example, someone has a 400 level TOEIC, but another person has a 900 level TOEIC, and this person's ground staff support, and this person is a technician or an engineer. The engineer is generally a worse communicator because they're so restricted to perfection, accuracy. So that person needs a different kind of technique to open up. And a ground staff person has to get confidence thinking that their level of English is good enough. All they need to do is just speak with passion. And so I just identify where people have their strengths, build on their strengths, and you can't really eliminate a weakness overnight, but you can bring attention to what can build that skill up. So I think communication is fascinating because it's what really connects us around the world and sharing our passion and knowledge. I think that the number one point of communication is listening.
Okay.
What did I say?
Listening.
Good, she was listening, that was brilliant. I think that helps everything because when you're in a room and the first thing that you're really trying to do is connect to the audience, but if you separate yourself from the audience, you can't connect. So you have to put yourself on an equal level. And then by listening to what people are saying, then you can actually use their information because people are more interested in themselves than someone else. So listening is really important. And then if you take some of the points that people are saying and you bring them back later in a conversation, it's a really natural way to connect. And an audience will be more, how would you say that? More, that would join into you and be supporting you more. That's, I believe.
I see. And also, I think you are very good at playing different characters. So how do you get the ideas of playing a new character?
Wow, that's a really good question. That's a brilliant question. What we lose when we become adults is the childlike thinking, the way that a child looks at the world. A child's always excited. And, you know, like on the train, I try and think that I'm in a child's space. So I'll try and observe things in the train like it's the first time I've ever seen it, or going outside and the buildings are going past and think something like, wow, it's really amazing. The train is moving and inside is not moving. So if you can amuse your mind like a child, then you can be in a state that allows you to play. And the creativity that comes from a playful mind is where our creativity sources are, because ideas come from mixing things that don't go together. And then once that's happened, then you get new ideas. And if I For example, if I gave you an Italian character, one of my favorite characters I perform is an Italian guy. He's a romantic guy, so he is coming from Italia, but his way, his talk is about, mainly I'm think about a woman, because he's the number one thing for me. So he's created a character. There's a character around the subject. It's make a big difference. And the body is changing every time you do a different, you know, if I was talking in an Irish accent, for example, right? Then I'd be changing the way that I'm talking, because there's a totally different rhythm or style to what you're doing. So you can do something totally different, and nobody would understand if it was really you or not. See, that's the interesting thing. That's really the interesting thing. Do you know who I really am? Because I don't.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. But don't tell Donald Trump I said that.
Do you practice it, or just you can do it naturally, or?
Since I was a child, I like voices, I like accents, I like observation. So, for example, the French accent, if I do a French accent, I studied my singing teacher in London, and this is a crazy thing, but he was actually an Italian, but he grew up in Paris. So his body language is very Italian, but his accent's very French. So if I use his character, and people are kind of confused, what you look Italian, but you sound French. So, but this problem that we have with the European Union is ridiculous. How you say in this, it's crazy because we don't do nothing that makes a difference. Sometimes I even spit because I'm very excited, but we should not do that, because if we follow the rule of democracy, we should not have this trouble, no? No? Yeah, we should not have this trouble. I find that the character can change so easily just by me changing my body. And there is an expression in business that says, walking the talk, talking the walk. If we look like we know what we're doing, the way we walk and it's confident, then it creates the opportunity to be successful too. If you think like a job interview and you walk into a job interview and you're self-conscious, then you have no chance to pass. But if you go in and you're very confident, then you have a much better chance because you're already comfortable with yourself. And it's the same for an acting audition, because an acting audition is the same thing but done so many more times and so many rejections, so you get used to being able to turn on and turn off a character.
Do you have any advice to Japanese people who want to have better communication skills?
Good question. If I try to speak Japanese like I speak English, 私はドリアンです。どうぞよろしく doesn't make any sense because Japanese is a rhythm time language where English is a stress time language. So using the language in a different way, copying and imitating is a good thing. Like get somebody that you like to hear and do what's called shadow practice is an effective way to get intonation pattern. And somebody like James Bond is a good person to study English with. The second thing that's the trouble is that when we're doing the language, some cultures are very good at picking up a foreign language, but they're not so concerned about accuracy. For example, Latin people. They will talk even though they can't say anything. Hey, I like. Okay?
Okay.
But they're still communicating. And somebody else says, でしょう、なんでかな、私は I like you.
Okay.
It's better just to get out the feeling and make a few mistakes instead of trying to be 100% accurate. That's why Latin people tend to pick up language quicker because they're not concerned about mistakes. And I love people like that. I much prefer people that are making mistakes, like Donald Trump and George W. Bush. They're great entertaining English speakers and they're native speakers. But their grammar and their concept of structure is terrible. Donald Trump has a simple SVO format that he repeats and repeats and repeats. I like. Yes, they like it. But that's my number one advice. That 2 points. Get out of character. Don't restrict yourself to the way that you normally use language. Follow someone that's got intonation patterns that you think is really good. And the second thing is try and be a little bit courageous with mistakes. Don't worry about them. And I think the second misconception of language is you don't need a really big vocabulary. I think you can say so much with simple words as long as you speak passionately and get your heart behind a message. Then if you think about it, Singaporean English and Indian English and Irish English and Australian English, they've all got different kind of stress patterns and dialect. Intonation changes, like Australia would say good day, but they would change the day to an AE, a diphthong, right? It's good day. Or an Indian person with the way they're talking very much and changing the vowel sound just a little bit and adding the ing verb to everything. I'm wondering why they're doing that. It's a difference of the way of using language, but it's still communication. So simplicity means that you can talk to everybody. And that's one of the greatest things that a great speaker like, my number one admired speaker would be Bill Clinton. He's a super smart guy, but whenever he speaks to do like a presidential speech, he simplifies the language down to really, really simple language so that people understand. I mean, he's a sophisticated lawyer. He has a vocabulary something like Shakespeare's, but he still chooses to simplify. Simplicity is how you become completely understood.
So finally, would you like to share something with us?
Absolutely. Well, currently I'm exploring three main things. I'm doing comedy stand-up. I'm also doing live music performances. I got a performance coming up in July in the Pink Cow in Roppongi. And I'm also writing two books. One is a business skills book, which is based on creating really powerful tension in communication. And the second book is a musical that I've been working on for a long time, which is based on bringing three different cultures together. Indian culture, Buddhist culture, and the Christian culture, and kind of merging them all together. And because I feel like this is the right time that we look at culture and stop criticizing culture and start just accepting everyone can have their uniqueness, but not better or worse, just different. And diversity is what makes the world beautiful. And next month I'll be doing a music performance in the Pink Cow. It's my debut there. And so yeah, come down to the Pink Cow. It's going to be either the first Sunday or the second Sunday in July.